Hey guys. Hey guys. What's up? Not sure how exciting this is going to be, but it's good to see you all. Who's there? Richard, g'day. Wazza, hello. Mike from Cornwall, hello. Dan Shed, hey Fridge. Chirpy, g'day. Good video from Chirpy this week. Peter Noddle, hello. David, hello. Good morning. Stephen Lang, good morning. Uri's worth checking out. Is an awesome channel. Got to be worth looking at. His last video is really good. Some of his print videos are great. I love watching his stuff. Rust Knox, g'day. Good video from Rusty this week. You should go and check that out. Nicholas Workshop, some good videos from him this week on Unimat lathes. There's good stuff there. Maddie's Workshop's building a rotary brooch. It's a good video. And a couple of tools lately. Maddie, you're doing some good stuff. Mats Peterson, g'day. Dan Harold, hello. Craig's Workshop, g'day. Look, bit of junk on the bench. Sorry about that. Not particularly exciting, probably. Been printing these flat out, which is a spool filament holder with a 608 bearing, 4 608 bearings, and some M3 bolts. This is the Prusa design for this. It's a pretty good design actually, but need more than one of them. There's only one come with the machine, so I've been printing them. That's how that works. As half a spool of filament later, we've got lots of prints. So what's happened this week? They're really nice prints, man. Look, my old printer wouldn't have been capable of printing these, to be honest. Not a hope. They're flat and they're smooth. Really nice job. Hey, Joseph. Hey, Stuart. Really a little bit impressed with this. No support, no nothing. It's a good design, but realistically, it's a fantastic print. It's like, yeah, straight out of the box. That's amazing. So I printed 3 of them because we needed 3 more for a start, and got some 608 bearings. They cost me $2 each or something. So got some filament spools holders anyway. Hey, Nigel. Malcolm Till, good day. I think it's gummy bears. Look, I've got a couple of rolls of filament today, and I just printed this, and I was interested to know about dimensional, I guess, calibration. This is within 0.1 of a millimetre all over. The Z-axis, which is that way, is Z is spot on. It's within about 0.02. The X is that way, is about just under 0.1 under, and the Y is just under 0.1 over. So whether I'm going to fix that, I'm not sure, but that's not too shabby. This is in CPE, which is a PLA that's been modified a bit. It's not brittle, and it's pretty decent plastic. This is a natural colour, so it's clear nearly, but it's not. But not shabby. But that's what we get out of the box with a Prusa mini printer. I'm pretty impressed about that. Anyway. Jerpy, I just need to machine some wheels. It's been one of those weekends. I come home on Saturday and I sort of had a headache, and probably it's my own fault, and then I ended up with migraine most of Sunday, and I didn't do very much, so it's been a slack weekend. Hey JB. Tommy Gun Machining, g'day. Congrats Tommy on the new mill. Hope to see a video about it soon. It's pretty exciting. Tom's got a new mill. Go and check out his channel. There's a video coming. It's a pretty nice bit of gear. There you go. How do I know all this stuff? We have a Discord, and some pretty awesome people hang out in there. So if you're into Discord, or you're looking for a chat room that hasn't got too many politics or anything, and there's a cool bunch of guys, go and check out Discord. Chirpy's there, Tom's there, Stefan's there, Craig's there, JB's there, everyone's there. So if you've got nothing else to do with your life, that's probably some good way to waste it. But anyway, we don't buy it, and the link's in the description. What else? Sort of been messing with this engine. Everyone wants an update on this engine, I know. There was a video on Patreon and another video about the casting, which is old hat stuff, on YouTube. But the update was basically putting this together. There's video 30 on Patreon if you want to go and check that out. There's some pretty cool stuff. I'm kind of proud of those videos. Probably boring, but it's nice to do them. Hey, Aaron. Dan's not there, but then he was going to make videos too, and he hasn't done that either. So one day in the future we'll be there. Hey, Alistair, good to see you. Adventures with the Very Small Lathe, that's Alistair. You should go and check him out. It's a good channel. So, don't know about this, but this is kind of what I thought about a radiator. Yeah, totally do an invite and get it there. Dennis, g'day. Good to see you. So I sort of printed this, which is what the tank's probably not going to look like. Fridge. Ouch. This is just a waste of plastic, really, but I wanted to see how it all fitted on here before I went and made bits, like proper bits. And it's a good way to procrastinate, because it makes me feel like I'm actually doing something when I'm probably not. But anyway, this radiator is going to be a screen-cooled radiator. I think it's going to be a little bit higher than this. And I think that the tank's probably going to be a little bit lower. So we're going to have a fairly low tank and a fairly long screen with a bit more taper on it. And this little pump, which we've modelled up, this is from E.J. Winter's P12 pump drawings, which are just here on the bench because I've actually been making a video about this. P12 pump from O.B. Bolton, Barnaby Bolton in Sydney. This is about 1920 to 1930, something like that. I don't have an actual date on this, but it's years ago, and they're pretty basic drawings. Now, Bernard E.J. Winter hasn't been particularly helpful about castings and things, so whether they're not available or whether they won't be available, I'm not sure what the story is there. I guess if enough people make enough noise about making and getting a set of castings, he might do something. But I've just modelled this up and I'm just going to fabricate it. Hey, Paddy. Most people don't look in the description of the video. No, I don't. I'm usually sitting on the couch. If I get up to watch a chirpy video, get up at the end of a chirpy video and make it leave a comment, I'm doing really well because it means I'm not asleep. Anyway, this is a nice little pump. I've just dropped that, sorry. It's just got a drill bit in here for the shaft because I couldn't be bothered making one. And it hasn't got the rotor in it, so it's very, very basic. It's got a rotor that looks something like that. This is PETG, which I'm experimenting with, and this is just PLA for the print purposes. But it's got a standard on the back, and then it's got a body on here and a cover and a pipe, and I'm probably just going to put an elbow here and a rubber hose between the pipe and sorry, and this outlet here, which will go into the middle on the tank. Have a look. Black's a rotten colour to print anything in because you can't see it. So that'll sit there and drive off the pulley here, and there's a groove here for it. This will pump out of the tank through here, back in here, and then out of here into the radiator. So that's here, and then pipe over here into the radiator. That's how it's going to look. I don't think it's any particular necessity to actually make this like this, but it's going to look good and it's going to be cute. Actually, Chirpy's video is nearly always interesting, and he's probably the only person who makes hour-long videos that I actually sit right through, except maybe Tom Limpton and Chirpy are about the only two people. So they're worth having a look at. So as for looking in the description, it doesn't happen. So that's what's planned for the radiator, and that's what's next. But that's all very good and all that sort of stuff. But we probably need an update on this, right? Which brings us to these. Guy named Jason Ballamere, who's kind of pretty awesome model engineer. Actually, he makes a lot of cool engines, and he writes for Model Engineer, and he's made some fairly interesting gas-fired hot bulb engines, hot tube engines that are fairly interesting, and he's on one of the model engine forums. helped me out with some information on the Stewart 800. Now, the 800 is basically the same engine. It's a bit different. It's actually got a flange on here and a separate cylinder, and it's side shaft down the front, and it's got a flyball governor. But it's a gas engine with one flywheel, and you can see a family resemblance. Why is that so close there? It wasn't when I started. I'm not sure. You can see a family resemblance in the two engines. But he sent me some information on the 800 and some drawings, which is pretty cool. And there's a paragraph in the information on getting the thing running on propane, which this never ever had. So that provides some answers that I didn't have before, and some definite answers, which is awesome. And while this is in pretty sort of, well, that's really, really close there, and it probably shouldn't be. I'm not sure why that is. We might have to fix that. But anyway, what's missing out of the instructions for this is any information at all on running it or getting it going. And whether it takes for granted that you already knew that stuff, if you just come back from World War II and World War I, and you spent 4 years messing around with rotten old petrol engines in 6 inches of mud on the French in no man's land in France, and you probably knew all there was to know about it. But I think they just didn't have the information and they left it out, to be honest. The reality of this engine is that people who made it were usually returned servicemen, I think, and probably pretty clever guys. I'm not. So there's no information on running it, and especially on running it on propane, which is probably a much more modern fuel source than this engine is. So there's nothing there. Anyway, long story, but what we've got is some information that says that this needs a demand valve or a Garrison regulator, which is basically a negative pressure regulator, right? So it only sucks fuel when it needs it. The problem with this is that we're getting this manifold full of fuel, and it's not sucking any air because it's got fuel pressure in here, and you're only getting fuel in the cylinder, so it's not actually firing particularly efficiently. This fires best when you give it a mouthful of fuel and then turn the tap off and turn it over a few times to get some air into it, and then it'll fire. So, hey Jason. So what it needs is a demand regulator, and I've got drawings for one of them from a guy named Jerry Kiefer, who's a pretty good, or pretty prolific, or was a pretty prolific engine builder in America. And I've ordered the parts to make it. So come this next weekend, if all the bits are here, I'll just make that up and we'll see if that makes any difference. That's the first thing. Second thing is I've got way too much gas pressure, more than I ever thought. Probably 2 inches of water pressure is too much. So the instructions say that you should be able to put soapy film over the end of the pipe and it should blow a bubble and not pop. So that's how much pressure we got, or how much pressure we need, and we've got about 20 times that much. So those two things fixed, and we've got some direction on fixing those. This engine should run. So that's where we're at with it. And today I bought a couple of hose barbs when I was over at the bearing place to make a regulator. And I ordered of course, being America and it's all Tecumseh bits, and no one in Australia sells Tecumseh parts really. So it took a bit of getting, but I got a diaphragm and a needle valve to make the valve, and hopefully that fixes it. There you go. So that's the rundown on where we are with this, why it's not running, and I believe all that's really wrong with it. I've been suspicious for a while it's just getting too much fuel. It's not getting any mixture, and that's been sort of the problem and why it won't fire. So let's work on that and see where we are with it. Is everyone happy? Because I know you've been waiting for that information. Anyway, everyone's gone quiet, so you're probably all asleep. But there you go. That's where we are. What would I make? It's just a square box with a diaphragm in it, out of a chainsaw carburetor, which fluctuates when it sucks air and releases the needle valve, and lets a little bit of gas through. So it's very, very simple. Just nod and agree. Yeah, Russ Knox has got it, so all you less intelligent people might too. Sorry. Anyway, that's where we're at with that. I need to cut out something, and I might get a piece of acrylic. I was going to think about 3D printing a base for this to prop this up off here so we can get our fingers under the flywheel and not actually cut them off. But I'm not so sure that's a good idea, or whether it's a smart idea or something. It might be cool. But what I'd like to get is a piece of acrylic laser cut out here, and I might get someone to do that. Jason's very quiet today. Yeah, throw the egg rolls in. We're all keen on them. Egg rolls are a Chinese delicacy in America. For all you Australian guys, egg rolls are... oh gosh, what would we call them here? We don't call them egg rolls. I guess they're a wonton sort of thing. They're a rolled up thing with noodles in them. There you go. That's something I learnt when I was in America a long time ago. And now we're hungry. I don't think it'll get hot, but I don't know. What I would like is a nice aluminium casting to go under it, and that might happen yet. We've still got to cast this one, but timber I think is a bit oily. It's not going to stand up well to this because what it does get is dirty. So spring roll, yeah, I don't know if they're even soft. They're kind of crunchy. Yeah, spring roll we would call it. That's what I was trying to think of. Matt looks here. He's got scrapers for sale, I believe. I might be wrong about that, but he says a bit of teak. Well, that's probably a smart idea. Thanks, Matt. We might look into that. It's got to run to get hot, Fridge says. Thanks for that. I walked into that one. But anyway, it wants something, and this bit of pine isn't going to cut it. So a bit of teak might be really nice. If such a thing is available here in Australia. Anyway, that's where we're at with that. And we're sort of a little bit impressed with the progress, and it looks like it's probably going to run, and I'm confident about it again. So it's just a matter of waiting out until the parts arrived. I've done a few little jobs on this. I actually put a new grub screw in here, a bigger one, because the small one just wasn't holding. So I've done that. I may have bent that guard putting it on, or it's got an extra coat of paint on it or something, because it seems to be a lot closer here than it was. Not sure why that is, and I'm not sure how we're going to fix it. And it's probably never going to touch, but it's a bit close there. I've only just noticed that. Whether this little pump probably wants, I would say, a valve in it, because if we run that pulley to that, and that does 400 RPM, this is going to do probably 1000 RPM. This is going to put out, it's going to empty this tank in about 3 seconds and make a mess everywhere. So it probably wants some sort of a valve here. So I'm probably just going to make a little square valve to go in the line that I can screw this off like a heater valve, that sort of thing. Basil and oregano, yeah. That's what they're calling it. Yeah. That's your thing, that's your thing. I don't have any problems. Anyway, what else is happening? I've done a bit of messing around on the tender of the locomotive too. So not anything crazy exciting, promise. But this engine's starting to get pretty heavy, by the way, just so you know. It's pretty stocky. Probably showed this last week. This tender's looking pretty good. Make a bypass valve with a valve. That's probably not a bad idea, Steve. We might think about that. We'll see. We'll get the pump going first, I think. Asterix, just one of the famous Belgians. Is he? No, he's Flemish. So yeah, what's that make him? Where was Flem? I'm kidding you. He was a Gaul, so that makes him. I guess that makes him a Briton, really. I mean, they were Druidic, so I guess they're. Yeah. Tintin was a Belgian. If we're going to fight about our favourite comic book characters, yeah, Tintin was Belgian. Was he? I think so. Yeah, I like Tintin probably more than Asterix. Actually, Tintin was I like how Tintin was. All those vehicles in Tintin were actually modelled after real vehicles. Someone did a lot of homework on those. The artists must have spent a lot of time looking at magazine cuttings and brochures of cars and things to get all those vehicles and things exact replicas. If you if you go through Tintin comics, you can actually like pretty much see to the year and the date which vehicles were in it. Anyway, we've got all these bolts in here. So that is progress, and that took me a few hours the other weekend. Looking good. Fairly impressed about that. I've started making a jig, and there'll probably be a video about this, a jig to drill these for the springs. Each one needs a hole in it just to keep it for the spring, and that's got to be in the centre there in the right spot. So I'm going to make up a drill jig and do them by hand. I think that might do it. They might end up in the drill press, but that'll just equalise them. So that's coming along pretty nice, actually. Next thing really is to make axle boxes. And these little, I guess you would call them keepers or horn stays, which go across here and stop the axle box slipping out. And they've got two little 8BA screws in there. But they're pretty tiny across there, as you can see. So I've been putting them off because they're fiddly little bits. But if I can find a piece of bar, I might get in and make those. But drilling and tapping them 8BA in there and putting bolts in them and making them work is a bit fiddly. Anyway, that's our locomotive update. Some of those early Tintin books are worth a lot of money now. If you've got an original, they've been reprinted, most of them, but if you've got an original, they are crazy expensive. When I was in London in 2016, I think, in Covent Garden, I think it was actually, I went shopping and there's a Tintin shop, and they had so many figurines that were pretty cool. That's something I could have got obsessed over, but I didn't because I really didn't have suitcase room or money. But there's some pretty awesome miniatures that the Tintin Foundation put out that are pretty cool. So if you've got nothing to spend your money on and you really wanted something to collect a bit more dust, you could go and check that out. Anyway, so this is coming along nicely. We need some buffers, and there's a lot of bits we could do that really aren't all that difficult on this and make some progress on it. So that's something we need to do, but I'd really like to get this engine running first. What else? I've got some mail. It's pretty exciting. Not that one. That was last week's mail. From Aaron Powder, Design Creativity and Technology Solutions. Aaron's workshop. He's got nearly more letters after his name than I do, actually. It's pretty awesome. And he sent some stickers anyway. So if you haven't checked out, I haven't checked out this. I'm no idea what that is. Someone will probably know. Machining for Creators and Makers. Aaron's channel. DTC. And Aaron's home channel, which is Aaron Engineering. Which is pretty cool. Go and check him out. He's got some good videos. And thanks, Aaron. From the electric people? Yeah, I try not to get them. doesn't make any difference whether you read them or not. They're still valid, apparently. Now, here's something else that came in the mail. From your Australian things, and Australian people, and I was going to sort of, this is a bit hard to see probably on here. Let's put it on this drawing. If we get an oil spot on it. This came, and probably if you watch Aaron's channel, you would see a video review on it. This is from a guy's named Lathe Safety Australia. Not sure what the story with it is. If I'm being particularly honest, I'm not really sure why they're sending them out to people, but they're free. So if you're in Australia and you want some free steel, you could get one. It's way too big for my machine, but I can see that it's sort of a fairly smart idea. This is for putting a piece of emery tape or emery paper in and polishing a shaft. 3 bolts as well. They're grade 8.8, so I mean, I would imagine that they're probably imperial. I don't know, they might be 10mm, but they look like they're probably 3/8 UNC to me, which probably dates the creator of this and whoever's behind it, because if this was a up-and-coming generation that designed this, they'd be metric. You can get the plans from the company website. Now, something about half this size would be pretty useful, because Aaron sort of sussed it out and worked out what he was doing with it and got some pretty good results with it, and the way he was using it is a pretty cool thing. Just to put a piece of tape on here and feed it into your work, it's pretty useless because you can't get right up to a shoulder and it's in the way and you can't see what you're doing and all those sort of things. But he looped a tape around here, and for polishing a long shaft it looked like a pretty useful thing. Too big for my machine. This is Sony soft stuff. I don't know what this is. It's properly chemically blackened. It's not actually like paint. But this, the 40RC file will touch this along pretty easily. So it's not hard. So it's probably a piece of steel that's more than useful for something. I think it's probably a good thing if you've got a big lathe. Absolutely. And if you're polishing shafts under power feed and stuff like that, it's probably a really, really nice thing to have. It's too big for my lathe. Shaft's inch by inch, I would say 25mm. So it's a pretty big thing. Pretty stocky tool. It's quite well made thing. And someone's put a lot of effort into them, and I'm not sure why they're sending them out, whether they're going to send everyone a letter saying, you know, this is another product that we've released, come and buy one off us, or what the story is. But anyway, how do you get one? You go to the website and it's lathe.safety.com.au, I think. Maybe if someone's seen it, they could put a link up and put your name and address in and they send it to you. So it's as simple as that. Anyway, I got one and I wasn't surprised that it come, but it was interesting that it did come. And it seems to be probably a really good idea, but way too big for my lathe by about double. If it was half this big all over, it might be a really good thing. And thanks, Tom. Well, it's a bit strange, really, because a couple of decent reviews from YouTubers, and it's probably something that would sell, because it's, for polishing a long shaft, it looks like a pretty awesome thing to have. Like, really. It takes a lot of the hard work out of it. And it's a pretty safe thing too. You're not going to get your fingers jammed. And Aaron got some pretty good results with it, and a couple of other people I've seen have too. So it's probably all right. It looks very easy to make. That's exactly right. It is very easy to make, I would say. And whether I may actually make a smaller one, I'm not sure, because I haven't got enough projects really. Anyway, I need to make some tools and get some videos out on some cool tool ideas I've got, because everyone's sick at this, obviously. But I want to get it running. And I apologise that all that's been on my channel in the last 6 months is this engine. But it's nearly going. Promise. Instructions show it being used that way, yes. But Aaron put a piece around here inside out and pulled it away from the shaft and got some pretty good results with it. Pushing it into the shaft was a bit stupid, because you only got 2 lines on the emery paper that you're actually doing any work on. And to me, that's a waste of paper, because you're only using 2 lines on about 4 inches of paper. So I'm not sure about that. But to loop it around, you're using nearly all the paper, and you're getting a constant force, and you're probably getting a pretty constant feed if you use your lathe, and you're getting a really good finish, I would think. But anyway, Chirpy's idea to make a lap for lapping his shaft in is probably a better idea, and that looks like it worked really well. Go and check out Chirpy's video if you haven't already on lapping a shaft. Pretty interesting. Thanks for that, Chirp. Hey, John. So anyway, that's where we're at. There's too many things to finish, and not enough hours in the day, and I spent all weekend messing around with a 3D printer and watching TV, so that was pretty poor, and I'm a little bit ashamed about that, but that's what happened. I guess that if we're going to call names, then Friends is on Netflix at the moment, and I really want to watch that, so that's what I've done the weekend. Sorry. Anyway, what else? What else? I've been doing a bit of painting too, which I haven't done for a little while, and I really need to get my hand back into, so I've been messing with that. Might see some of that next week, or we might not. Well, it is what the weekend's for, but the weekend's kind of for actually doing stuff. Fridge, that's a bit harsh. It wasn't even good TV. Anyway, I'm not sure I'm even going to talk to you again. What else? What's everyone else up to? What projects are happening? Tommy Gunn's working on a gearbox build of some sort for some sort of clay mulling machine. That's pretty cool. Brendan Gill's building a 5-inch Washington loco. That'll be really nice. Do we have a link, Brendan? You could put up a link to your channel. It'd be awesome if you've got one. Go Crate's just finished piston rings out of PTFE, I believe, but I might be wrong. Stephen Lang's struggling with the chamfer tool, which looks like it's harder than it thinks. Anything from Tom Lipton is harder than it looks. I learnt that a long time ago. I thought you were halfway through, was it, with the Dodge pickup? But anyway, I've been watching your page for ages. Dennis is out. Take care. Good to see you. You take care of yourself, Dennis. That noise is my iced coffee. Apologies. This is good stuff. Not sponsored, but yeah, it should be because this is good stuff. John Creasy's just finished an Erling tool. It's really, really nice. Wooden box and all. A little bit impressed with his finger joints and bits and pieces and his punching, letter punches. It's a really nice job. John's back to boilers now. Still waiting on a video. Yeah. Did you have a link to that, Brendan? Love to see. 5-inch gauge loco is a pretty big job. Wasn't really going to show this, but here we go. This is something else I printed, right? This is a bit of a teaser for Patreon in season 3, which may or may not happen, and it may or may not be this build either, right? We've got some options, and there'll be a vote about it. So if you want to vote on the next project, you should be on my Patreon, and you should, if you are on my Patreon as a supporter, you should look out for that because it will come up at some point when this engine's finished in another few months. But there's been a little bit of discussion on one of the forums, Home Model Engine Builders Forum, or one of those. I think that's the one, on dynamos and scale model dynamos and making proper dynamos. Now, I built a little electric motor that was supposed to operate as a dynamo, and there are reasons it never, and we've seen that here the other week. But this was in Model Engineer in 1898, second edition, or the second issue of Model Engineer in 1898 was one of the big construction series for that second edition was this little dynamo, which is pretty nice in cast iron with coils and a H-beam armature and split commutator and a cast iron base and 2 cast iron magnets and a whole lot of wire on here. Now this is just put together with metric screws because they're cheap and they're easy to 3D print with. And I've got big stocks of them so I can just put them back in the box when we're done. And we chuck this out, or we put it on the shelf, or we decide we're not going to do anything with it. just put rubber bands around these to hold them. And that gives you some sort of idea what sort of coil winding or sort of amount of wires are on these. But this is a magnet here. Commentator, the brushes on the brush holder here, and a couple of bronze. The shaft is pretty light, but it spins pretty quick, I guess. But that's, to me, is probably a really nice thing. I wonder if it's brand new. It's kind of been fairly interesting. But anyway, we haven't really... I don't think I'm getting all the messages here, and I apologise for that. I'm probably not. I think this is defaulted across to yeah, top chat again, which is a real pain in that. Anyway, yeah, it has. I've changed that back. I don't know why that does that. I only get some of the messages. Anyway, I printed one of these just as part of the forum was a bit interested in it, and I wanted to see how it looked. And I wanted to try out this big flat surface on the printer, which it handled particularly well. So Craig's all disjointed. Anyway, that's where we're at. And that's another project which will probably never ever be built, to be honest. I've got about 4 projects that are on the list of things that I'd like to build next, and that's kind of how it works. I put it to a poll because I can never ever decide. So I put it to a poll and then we build that. So if you're interested in having some input into that, you should check out my Patreon. And if you do, I mean, there's 30-something patrons on there, and all you guys should vote when the time comes. So I'll hold you to it. And that's how I decided on this monstrosity of a thing, which may or may not have been a good idea, but I think it's close to running now. This is one of the projects. There are others as well, but we might do a trailer video or a pilot video of each one and see what people think. Okay, JB asked the big question: what do I think about 3D printing? At this point, I'm a little bit more impressed with 3D printing than I was with the last printer. None of these prints here, my last printer would have been capable of doing, right? It might have done these. It probably would have done this, right? I wouldn't have had any luck with this because this is PETG and there's no way my printer would have printed it. I wouldn't have managed this, which is CPE, something like that, whatever it's called. Wouldn't have had a hope of printing this that nice and flat, because that would have just lifted off and bowed and would have sunk on one side. So this printer is amazing because there's some actual research and development behind it, and it kind of works. And I like 3D printers that work straight out of the box. I don't know how long that'll last, or whether there's going to be issues that come up later as the thing gets a bit more worn in. But at this point, I kind of like it. Who was the Belgian? Danny? Paddy? Was that Graham, was it? Oh, there you go. It was Graham. There you go. Anyway, everyone's on the couch, Malcolm. And it's too far to go across and click the like button, and I can relate to that. Anyway, that's what I've been messing around with. There's not a lot of productivity except a lot of crappy plastic bits, and I apologise for that. And I know 3D printing isn't everyone's cup of tea. I'm a little bit more at home with it with this machine than I've ever been before, because the last one was crap. I'd have no hope at all of printing something like this. And this is dimensionally stable. Like, if you measure this, it's within 0.1 of a millimetre on each side, and it's got an amazing surface finish, top and bottom. This wasn't supported, so this is a bit crap, but it's not too shabby, really. Same with this one, which was printed upside down, but really, really nice job. And I'm still not 100% convinced they make good casting patterns, because you've got a little bit of spring in them, and that makes them a little bit hard to ram tight, but prove me wrong. ArborPress build is still undecided. Tom has videos like that, or projects like that as well. So anyway, these prints are pretty good. This, if we machine it, probably needs to be 3 parts surface ground somewhere, so that's interesting. This needs a die cut to cut laminations out of silicon iron or pig iron or whatever it is. And there's some interesting patterns. If we were going to cast them, we could probably machine these bits out of solid, though, if we needed to. So I'm at this point, I'm not sure about that. There will be other projects as well that might be of interest, but I need to get this running first. And I think we've got the answers for that, so it's all full steam ahead as of next weekend. So, time. The other thing is, someone pointed out, and there's always this person at a party, right, who points out that you should make the projects that you've got all the bits for, and there's always that person, and you sort of grudgingly think, well, he deserves some space but to be listened to, but he doesn't really. And someone pointed out that you should make the project that you've got all the bits for. So the other projects are here, and I probably do have a lot more parts for. So anyway, I don't know if anyone wants to see them, so we might have another look at another one another night. There are a couple of pretty cool things that I'd like to build, though, and I'm probably more in a position to build than when I started thinking about them. Anyway, nearly going to call this. All right. We've been an hour. It's pretty awesome that you all tuned in. Whatever I feel like on the day. The trouble is, if I don't have a bit of encouragement and some sort of direction and a little bit of a help along with that, I never get anything finished. And that's why I YouTube, because we do get things finished. Look at this engine over here. Pretty awesome. It's not running, but it's kind of nice. If we have a look, it's kind of looking pretty good. It's a fairly nice thing. And I'm a little bit impressed that over this period of time, I've kind of got this to this point. I'm sort of pretty amazed, actually. And it's mostly because of you guys. I really appreciate that. We've got compression, plenty enough compression. Any more compression and we'll never start it. Need some oil around it, but we've got spark and we've got timing and all those sort of things. We just need some fuel. So we need to make a pump for it, and that's next. Probably is a tool making project. I've got a box of bits here and some steel and stuff to make a rotary brooch, which is something I've sort of been thinking about for a long time, and I've got Tommy guns planned. So that might be something that happens fairly reasonably soon too. Whether everyone wants to see a video about that, I don't know. It'll be a little bit different to the drawing in some ways. I've ordered different stock to make some bits for that, so I've got plans for that. Anyway, I'm going to call it. Thanks for tuning in. You all should be subscribed, so I shouldn't even have to say that. I don't know whether clicking the like button makes any difference to me at all. It probably doesn't, to be honest, but you can welcome to do it if you want. Check out the Discord, because there's some awesome conversation over there. There's some cool stuff, and you kind of get the inside track on what everyone's doing. So that's if that's something you're into and you're sick of Facebook because of the political crap, Discord's pretty good. And it's basically just a chat window that goes all day and all night because it's international. And I'm out, really. So take care and be kind to each other.